Fever Media in an absolute panic. They are losing their grip on the narrative. They are losing their audience who is fleeing to better sources, independent sources on social media platforms, whether it's X, TikTok, Insta, hopefully on YouTube, and y'all are following me. If you aren't, please hit the subscribe button. I promise you, you will not regret it. I do appreciate all of you that have been following and enjoying the content and liking and commenting and everything. Because again, I do read all of the comments. I truly do appreciate you taking the time and supporting the channel. Shout out to the 19, all 16,000 strong. We are small but mighty. Let's go. So now we've got Sports Illustrated, a gentleman covering the Indiana Fever, um, who decided that he was going to mock and attack the independent contract creators, the ones actually doing the real work when it comes to covering the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark. And of course, can't have that because which I'm going to include myself, are getting a little more popular than the actual media who does not do their job, which is why media, we have any type of audience because we bring something that you should be bringing and yet you don't. So let's go ahead and dig into some of this nonsense that I think it is important to have a conversation about when it comes to the coverage of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
All right, so this was too good not to share because it's something I've talked about quite a bit, and I've made it a rule to not let social media or YouTube nonsense dictate what the story is or create the headline. It's one thing if it's reacting to the headline, and it's another thing if it's finding something that's legitimate. But there are
None of that is true, by the way. Just saying, and that's an opinion. It's not even worth digging into, but I felt the need to say it because we're already setting up into we're going to move the goalpost in a certain way so we can spout nonsense to talk about how wonderful the credentialed official media, am versus these YouTubers. What do they know?
legitimate basketball critiques of the Fever coach, the interaction between Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark on the sideline against the Fire game. I understand why that blew up, though if a camera finds many of these interactions, they could blow up. But the idea that there's legitimacy to some of the nonsense that's being spewed then gets brought to the players and the team, and that's almost a lack of responsibility from the media by letting that made up stuff get legitimized. And it's
All right, so a couple of things here that are really important. What stuff specifically are you referring to? What is it that you're talking about when you're clearly putting down YouTubers and how they're spreading nonsense and misinformation? What specifically are you talking about? Because in order to set this up, you just decided went with the disclaimer of, well, of course there are legitimate criticisms, and of course the interaction with Caitlin and Stephanie White was a legitimate topic of discussion on which people should be able to have different opinions. But you didn't give us anything. You didn't give us any examples as to what it is you're talking about when you say that. And then I know you don't realize that you just did this, but you basically admitted that your job is to protect and promote the Indiana Fever, right? How dare the media? Shame on you, media! How dare you bring these stories that are out there to the team? We can't do that, media. We need to protect them. Well, actually, protecting them isn't your job. Covering them is your job. Digging into stories that you find is your job. Protecting the Indiana Fever is not actually your job. Let's continue, shall we? There's more.
tough because then you get criticized if you don't bring it up, right? But it was brought up in the post game to Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark, after they beat the Connecticut Sun, it's nice that it came in a win and they were able to laugh it off. But I think
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice that the media thinks that it's nice, that it makes it easier for the team to get these questions that because it came after a win? Talk about coddling the team you're supposed to be covering.
they were on the money here. And by the way, body language experts, I mean, looked like they liked each other. It looked like Caitlin Clark liked what Stephanie White had to say here. I'm just saying.
Saying, well, we'll cover that in a second after we hear what we say, and we will just say some things as well.
It seemed like maybe there might have been
Arrogant, condescending crap.
a situation on the sideline at one point 2 years ago. And it's funny because even after that fact, you're leading scorer on the team. So, and then there's
Today? Today?
yeah, so
Oh, okay.
she put the dagger, but you let.
But what sideline interaction? I'm
What I'm
confused.
saying is that there's reports that it's
Like what sideline interaction? I'm confused. And I say this like I posted this on X the other day after people were reading into whatever happened between Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White at the end of the last game against the Sky when Kelsey Mitchell fumbled the ball out of bounds. And yeah, it was a mess up by Kelsey Mitchell, clearly, right? But you know, it was just a quick exchange, and people were like trying to read everything's the Zapruder film. And if you're not immersed in social media and you're in that moment, like you're Clark and Stephanie White, you probably don't even notice that happened. Like you don't notice, you never think about that again in your life.
It's actually not true, just speaking as a coach and a player, especially in the reason that it was made a big deal and people are wondering is because it is not an isolated incident. There have been multiple incidents. There have been incidents, it seems, in almost every single game where there's this type of reaction between Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark. And it came on the heels of the big blow up when Stephanie White actually yanked Caitlin Clark out of a game after screaming at her because she only screams at Caitlin Clark. Only Caitlin Clark can make mistakes. And to think, and this is what really pisses me off because, and I think I might have talked about this before. Maybe it was just in my head with the other voices. We all know Caitlin Clark is great at this, right? Doing press conferences, doing press, the way she handles the media. She's top notch. She's top notch. So do you really think and everyone knows it, right? So when she's asked questions about, Kennedy Carter or Angel Reese and, all of that stuff. I mean, I think even when she was asked about Angel Reese's behavior at the end of the 2023 game, she had nothing but praise for Angel. She talks about, oh, they're just competitors. And we all know that that's a lie, right? Everyone knows. And I don't say that as a negative to Caitlin. That is part of the game. That's how you handle the press. But we all know Caitlin was not being truthful. And yet now, when she does the same thing, but it supports the Slurp FC, when it supports the Fever cult. Oh my God, see, Caitlin said, oh my God, Sophie said, oh my God, they said it. So I'm right, and they're telling the truth. You mean the same players that you know yourself were not telling the truth? Then suddenly, magically, when they give answers that support your position on something, on questions that they obviously are going to spin and not answer truthfully, magically they're correct. And the point I'm making is because a lot of these have been pointed to is Caitlin Clark's not trashing her coach. The head coach sitting right next to her. Yeah, no player is going to do that. It does not mean that they're giving you the truth, and everyone knows that as well. So it's absolutely wild to be so condescendingly arrogant as if this somehow supports your position.
The team is a division. The team.
Oh, no,
But clearly, when you see on the court, and
We're on a 3-game winning streak. We're doing good.
We're on a 3-game winning streak. We're doing good. Caitlin Clark, who's not getting traded to the Sparks, who doesn't, want to turn and punch her head coach in the.
I don't know why you're laughing like the piece of crap that you are, but this is pure Caitlin Clark, and everyone notices it. Well, what is it exactly that you want her to say while she's sitting next to her coach? Do you really think anyone again, publicly with these questions is going to sit there with a player to her right, a coach to her right, a player to her left. The supposed leader of this team is going to sit here and trash the team and be like, "Oh yeah, we've got these 4 players over here that I hate, and then we've got this group of players over here that hate me, and then we've got they hate each other, but I like this group over here who hates that." Like, what is it you're looking for? Oh, and by the way, because he's mocking and laughing the whole Sparks thing. That wasn't us, my friend. I corrected that right away. Y'all ran with that. Y'all said the stupid crap with that. Jason Whitlock, who is on your side, i.e., he's established media, he's the one that said Caitlin Clark was being traded to the Sparks. You can check it, Robin, did a video to clarify, hey, y'all, back up. Everyone running with this media, that's you, Jason Whitlock, running with this Caitlin Clark traded to the Sparks thing. Y'all missed it. You missed the plot. Michael Thompson, LA guy, Lakers guy, media in LA, Sparks fan, said, hey, I have a really good source that says the Fever front office is unhappy with Caitlin Clark. So, Robin, would you like to refute that? By the way, would you like to come with receipts? Because Michael Thompson has a pretty damn good reputation. So when he says, I have a good source that says Fever front office is unhappy with Caitlin Clark, do you have something that refutes that? Because that is what you do as media, right? You like to use your unnamed sources. And then Michael Thompson, in a separate comment, as a Sparks fan, said, oh, hey, Sparks, go get Caitlin Clark. That's what it was. There was nothing about, hey, my source says Caitlin Clark might get traded to the Los Angeles Sparks. So again, here's another example of spinning crap, the media spinning, Robin spinning to mock people, and yet he is wrong. Did no research on this, did not tell you what I am telling you, that the media ran with it. Jason Whitlock was really the first one to say, oh, being traded to the Sparks. By the way, and I can't think of what it was now, but right, it was Skip Bayless, big media guy, who ran with fake news as well, that did not come from us, that I did not run with. In fact, he got it from an account that I have repeatedly told people to block and ignore because it's an account on X called Fever Updates that does nothing but posts fake news. So again, I'm doing the correct job, Robin. YouTubers are doing the correct job. I made it very clear that Michael Thompson said nothing about Caitlin Clark being traded to the Sparks, that he was saying, as a fan, if the Fever are unhappy with Caitlin Clark, as a fan, I would love for my team to go get her, right? Kind of like, if I may use a personal example, A.J. Brown in Philly and being unhappy, and the Patriots, who need a good wide receiver, were all like, hey, go get A.J. Brown. Make sense? Understand now? Can you figure it out? Do we need to have a conversation? Because here's the other thing I'll add. I also make it very clear that when I give an opinion on something that I really can't know for sure based on just experience in being in the game and following sports and knowing people, and say, hey, this is what I see. This is what I hear. This is what I think is likely that's going on. And if it's something I can prove and verify and give facts on, I always bring receipts, which again, we can go back to the very beginning of this. You did not bring when you talked about these stories that apparently not media is bringing up and causing you such headaches and problems.
This moment.
Well, from that.
Damn
So,
right.
I mean, if y'all want to address it, I mean, clearly the stats and say tell me all, but
Yeah, I think our
if you guys
flood.
want to address it, please do it.
I don't know if their report says there's much.
I think it's speculation.
I think
It's
speculation.
opinions. I don't know about reports.
I think you're talking about, I don't think you're talking about journalism. And so if we're going to continue to create news from fans
Not sure why you're laughing, because I'm going to torch you on that too.
on social media or bots on social media or whatever it may be, then that's a problem, right? I think legitimate news sources need to report legitimate news. Ooh.
Wow, there's an idea. And then he's going to go on and talk about how Caitlin Clark liked that. She is right, but she's also lying. Stephanie White has lied repeatedly. The media has never held her accountable. Uh, she's calling us bots. So again, once again, trashing the fans who cover the team, because she doesn't like what is being put out there. That should tell you something. Now, as far as its opinion and its conjecture, and of course, what he's getting at here and what she's getting at is that those of us that don't have credentials, that somehow that means it's less than, that it doesn't matter, that it's not accurate, that it can't be a story. I'm sorry. Are you all familiar with sports media? And to be fair, media in general, 90% of it now is exactly that. It is opinion and conjecture. Are we not familiar with Stephen A. Smith? Are we not familiar with First Take? Are we not familiar with what is it, Get Up on ESPN? Or, are we not familiar with what Mike and Mike was? None of these are journalism. None of them. Sports media is built on opinion shows. All of talk radio, it's opinion shows. It is not journalism. None of it is journalism. It never has been journalism. So it's absolutely kind of wild that we're going to take that as a defense of the Slurp FC and the Fever cult who can't do their jobs properly to attack and mock us. No, my friend.
Wait. Actually, sorry. I should put this back.
Legitimate news.
Oh, I like that.
Facts.
Period. That's all we got.
It doesn't seem like
Sophie Cunningham, who was suspended for this game, right?
No one said she was suspended, but it is a legitimate question to ask considering the pattern of behavior from the Indiana Fever. Now, maybe if you would do your job and do some research and cultivate some sources and actually try and get at the truth, we might know what is going on with these mysterious injuries that Indiana Fever players get after they do something that their head coach does not like. Just a thought.
And you could get where that frustration comes from Stephanie White. So I thought it was too good to share. I think her point was on point there at the end in what she said, her general message at the end. And you could see, Caitlin Clark on board, which is the thing about it. I've shared so many times, like,
It's just because I share it was so joyful. What does Caitlin Clark, who I believe has a right to be frustrated with, by the way, the actual so-called journalists and all their ridiculous hit pieces that they put out on Caitlin Clark. We're not doing that. We're not making stuff up about Caitlin Clark. You're doing that. You're making up stuff about Caitlin Clark. So yeah, her part there is she is also frustrated with media. So of course she's going to like having media put in their place. But that's not us, my friend. That is you.
when Clark is telling you this stuff, maybe listen to her. That's all.
So there we go. Again, I won't repeat all of what I said previously, but isn't it kind of wild that now when she says something that you support as a crappy so-called fall journalist, she's telling the truth. She's no longer media savvy. It's no longer PR spin. It was back then when it was convenient for you, but somehow it isn't now. So last thing I want to do, just a few that I'm kind of thinking of as I'm doing this for the real journalists out there. How about, I don't know, some questions for Stephanie White? Why are you playing 11 players in the first quarter of a game? Why is Caitlin Clark getting pulled so early, so often, almost without fail when she's heating up and playing well? You yank her out so she can cool off on the bench. Whenever she has a hot start, you pull her early. Why is that? What's the thought process? Why don't you ever challenge a call that goes against Caitlin Clark when it's obvious that it didn't even touch the opposing player, yet you make challenges for Aaliyah Boston when it's clearly not going to get overturned. You make challenges for Kelsey Mitchell when it's clearly not going to get overturned. Why When Brittany Griner tried to end Caitlin Clark's career with a vicious shoulder to the jaw and Caitlin Clark crumbles to the ground. Why did you go out on the court, which, by the way, should be an automatic technical during play? That's an automatic technical on a coach. To yell at Caitlin Clark while she's down on the ground, when what you should have done was gone out on the court and gotten in the face of the official, yelled and screamed until you got ejected. Why did you behave the way you did? Because it was an awful, awful look from a head coach. The Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark pick and roll is the most effective play in the WNBA. You even talked about it when you got here about Stockton and Malone and went on this whole speech about how good they are at it and how wonderful they were. And hey, they ran it their entire careers and both went to the Hall of Fame, and everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew it was coming. Guess what? It didn't matter that everyone knew it was coming. And yet now you absolutely refuse to run the most effective play that your team has. Why is that? Because that is some wild, wild, wild stuff. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. You talk about resting Caitlin Clark off the ball, or it's somehow helping her with injury prevention. Wild stuff. Yet when she is off the ball, you constantly have her setting picks on bigger players who are now free to abuse her physically. She's getting more bumps, more bruises, more contact because she's setting a pick. So this actually seems to go completely against why you say you have her off the ball. Could you please explain further to your thought process on that? You refuse to give Caitlin Clark any praise, any positive comments, even when asked specifically about her play. You answer the question by praising the entire team, and you completely ignore Caitlin Clark. Yet, you light up like a completely smitten woman in love when you get asked a question about Kelsey Mitchell, and then what you do is only talk about and praise Kelsey Mitchell. Why exactly is that? And do you think giving no praise at all to your star player could be a problem in the locker room? Why do you insist on fitting players into an outdated system that makes them less effective than they are in terms of their strengths and their weaknesses, instead of adapting to the roster you have and adapting to the talent you have and focusing on maximizing their strengths and utilizing their talents to get the most out of them, especially when you have a generational talent who makes the entire team better, elevates the entire team when she's allowed to play the way she plays best. And finally, of course, why do you repeatedly lie when you are asked the most basic questions, like verifiable, easily provable lies? Why do you do that? What is the point of that? Anyway, just some questions for the journalists out there that they might want to ask Stephanie White if they ever think that maybe they might want to do their actual jobs. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. I will talk to you later.